I've said many times I've been very, very blessed to have sung with some of the greatest singers in the field of Christian music. The vocal band started back somewhere in the mid '80s with some wonderful singers: Gary McSpadden, Steve Green, Lee Young, and myself. It was a lot of fun. Then down through the years, it's had different changes as far as personnel is concerned. Been different. They've always been very, very good. And now I'm with the present group, and I'm very, very proud of them. As I've said, changes in groups are just going to happen. It's just the nature of groups. For what reason? But I think I've been blessed again. This is a wonderful group, and we're having a whole lot of fun.
That's for sure.
Marsh, Guy, and Wes. It's interesting. Guy came to us after Michael left. That was a big hole. Michael English was a great
fan.
And you don't replace. Yeah. You don't replace a Michael English. You go to something different. And you came along after Buddy Mullen had done, I think, a year or so with us. Buddy was a sweetheart.
Good,
I loved
man.
him, and that was a good group. When you came along, it pulled us in yet another direction, maybe a little bit more country than where we had been before, but it was a lot of fun. You originally came to town because Gary McSpadden and I were putting together a group.
That's right.
And we had a young tenor by the name of Chuck Sullivan,
Yep.
and another singer, lead singer, I forget.
Well, we sang a few things with Biney English, who was Mike's brother,
Right.
and ended up with a fellow named Bobby James. Remember Bobby?
From Texas.
From Dallas, right? Yeah.
And then
I still get with him every year when we go to Dallas.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good man.
I was talking to the tenor, Chuck Sullivan, and I said, we need another singer. He said, I know of a young man
He sure did.
from college. You came to town, and then we got both you and him started in studio singing, right?
You sure did. It's amazing how life is so intertwined like that. I mean,
It's crazy.
He did. I came to town to sing. You had published some writers in town who went on to become big writers, Paul Overstreet and
Yeah.
some of those guys. And we were singing some of their material.
Yeah.
And that was the catalyst that got me to town. And Chuck was kind enough to bring me to the party, really, and been a friend all these years and still is. And having gone through that time when we were putting the group together, it didn't really pan out that we were going to travel around and sing, And you said, well, hey, if you're going to stick around town, let me make a couple phone calls and see if I can help you get some session work. And you called a lady named Bev Darnell.
Mm-hmm.
And
she
she
got you
introduced us to the studio. Yeah.
Marsh, you came along after, well, first of all, when Mark Lowry left our group, and that was a big hole.
Yeah.
And I can remember Mark Lowry took Gary McSpadden's place. And of course, Gary was smooth and suave,
Yeah.
good looking. And Mark kids about this. Said, Gaither, you take right turns when you take right turns. And I liked his humor, but to be honest with you, I liked Mark's voice. He had never taken himself seriously as a singer. It was always comedy first and singing second. When he left, that was a big hole to fill. We asked our good friend Russ Taft to come in, and he did a couple of years with us. And after a couple of years, he's always been a soloist. Russ is a great soloist. Groups, and he has sung with the group in the past, but when he was with the Imperials, it was pretty much, Russ was out front and the
It's his
Imperials were
party.
back in.
Listening to
Can
him
we
last night.
interject?
Yeah.
Yes, because you've said this, in video footage, and I want it to go down on record somewhere. You talk about Jake being such an inspiration to you, and he was to all of us. He was in his heyday, back before we were a gleam in our mama's eye, like Mark used to say. But Russ was the guy. He was the dude, when we were coming up.
Absolutely.
And to be able to sing next to him for the time that I was allowed to was one of my dreams, and so fulfilling. Just kudos, Russ.
Yeah. And he was your J-Cast, right?
He really was. I mean, Inspiration.
And that was a wonderful 2 years. But after 2 years, we both decided, both Russ and I, that he had more freedom doing his solo stuff, and now he's back doing what he loves to do. And,
With us.
Yeah, and we're having a good time. So then we started looking for yet another baritone, and had a lot of wonderful possibilities. We had sung with you, Marsh, quite a bit in studios. The next question is, can a studio singer make the jump of becoming a studio singer and become a performer on stage? That's a bigger jump than people might think.
Yeah, it is. We've had, a little time figuring it out, and a lot of help from you and Guy, and now Wes, because Wes is he's natural at it, and he just gets right in there and does it. But the communication with an actual person instead of just a microphone sitting in front of your face. I did that for 14 years, and you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, dude.
And
It's a different world.
It is, but I thank you so much for Bill's, the consummate teacher and
Coach.
And yes, definitely. And I am Mr. Willing student. I have loved it, Bill, because God has just been teaching me so many things about communication and about being a leader, and all of that. You can't really be 100% follower in front of people who are expecting God to do something. You've got to take the reins at that point. And you've told this to everybody. If anybody thinks that, Bill is 100% ramrodding you up on the stage, it is, Bill will say, hey buddy, here you go. This is all yours, take it, please. And you have got to be a leader at that point if you're gonna take God into people's hearts. So I appreciate that, those lessons.
The other side of that coin was, and this was a very serious time, about a year ago, before we went into this new project, of simply saying, we've got to figure out, do we have the stuff with the current group to make it happen? After we got through the project, Guy and I started looking at each other and said, you know what, this is better than good.
Exactly what we said.
And
I've been working with you a long time, and I saw a gleam in your eye I had never seen. I'm serious. I mean, we've talked about that.
Oh, yeah.
That look you had, and the feel we had in our spirit, and our heart, and our ears, musically, just everything. It was special.
It was happening. And my son Benji would confirm this. If everything you do is, oh yes, that's great, that's fantastic, then you don't believe anything anybody says.
That's right.
And at times maybe I'm a tough coach at that point, but at least when you say something good and positive, then then you do believe it, And about halfway through that project, I said, something, this is our bunch. We're going to go to heaven with. It was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, very fun.
It really was.
I love every bit of that record.
I do too.
It was a great process, and you can hear the joy and the peace. As we say, it's in the grooves.
You know what though? It strikes me. It didn't come without fighting. We had to fight through. We had a process. I mean, I don't want to over spiritualize anything, but when God is at work in something in us and with us, and I think He was in the whole process of this last year and our record and putting this together, then the enemy doesn't like that, and he doesn't want unity. He doesn't want us to get Jesus lifted too high and us pushed down. He doesn't like that, and he fought us, and
That's
God
true.
prevailed.
I believe that.
I do too.
I believe it. When David Phelps told me in May, in the spring, that he felt like he ought to move on, I said, oh no, David, no.
I remember where we were.
Yeah.
I do too.
We were at Starbucks in Nashville, right?
Yeah. Well, we were doing interviews remember?
Yeah.
Some radio interviews.
That's
and
right.
you got a phone call. And I saw you when you came back in that room. Marsh and I were in the room. And I kind of cut my eyes at Marsh because I saw your countenance change. I saw you go. I knew that phone call was something. Didn't know what at the time, but he was a big part, wasn't he?
He was a very, very big part of what we did, and our relationship was good. It's like any other kind of relationship. There were times it was tense, because I don't know of a good relationship that doesn't have a give and take to it. But that was tough, and for a few days, I guess the word is depression.
Well, yeah. Again, I mean, you've said this a lot down through the years that I've been around you, and it's so true. I mean, you can't replace anybody. And that's where our natural mind first went. That's where you think. You go, oh gosh, how are we going to replace that? That's a world-class high C. That's a world-class high D. That's a world-class just about whatever you want. You can't replace that.
And you don't.
You don't want to.
And when Mark left, it was the same thing. I mean, when he told me he was going to leave, oh no, and we didn't replace him. We did something different. And at this stage, I would have to say that, and Mark says the same thing. He and I still talk, and he says, "You finally got yourself a great vocal group, don't you?" And I say, "Yeah, I'm very proud of it." I said, "I missed some of the things that we did together, obviously." Sure. And that's a great way to go. So when David said he was going to leave, we said, uh-oh, we're in a bad hole here. What do we do? So we started looking for tenors. And the word got out pretty quickly. We didn't even advertise.
You remember, too, at Starbucks, you alluded to that. That's where we went and sat down, talked a little bit after Dave met with you. And we were just kind of looking at each other. We're like, wow, we got to go through this process again. We were thinking in terms of just sheer volume of listening and so forth. And we prayed right there at Starbucks there in Brentwood and said, God, would you make this simple for us?
And really, to be honest with you, it was one of the most simple transitions that I think that we ever made. We had several CDs, and many of them were good possibilities, and we sang with several of them, and it was good. We got this one CD, interestingly enough.
If I can interject, the first CD you got.
The very first one I got.
The first guy we sang with.
Yeah. And you know what? It wasn't even solicited. I mean, he didn't send it. It was a friend of ours. In fact, she was the widow of Gene Badauer, who used to be on the road with us selling merchandise. Her name was
Sweet
Karen.
Man. He used to work with your dad at GM.
A good man. And so Karen, his widow, came to my daughter, Suzanne, and said, I've got a CD of a kid I know in Birmingham. I don't know how good he is, but I know he's an awfully good kid. And I listened to it, and I couldn't tell because, Wes, your voice was buried some with a lot of production, that kind of stuff. But I heard some nice notes. And then, of course, we know above nice notes come a whole bunch of other stuff. Does he know our kind of music? Does he like our kind of music? So I told Guy, I was in Philadelphia.
And I said, called me, and I was at a Boy Scout camp. I was in a tent standing next to a river in Tennessee with my two boys while they were canoeing, and my phone rang.
And I said, Guy, I think we need to listen to this kid. Give him a call. So he calls you, Wes. And where are you?
I am on the road coming home from a wedding. My wife and I sang at one of our friends' weddings, and on a Saturday coming home, and I was on the phone with one of my buddies, and I saw, I heard the phone ring, and I heard the beep, and looked at the phone. I was like, 615, huh? I didn't get it because I thought, I'm gonna finish this conversation. Then, if it's important, to leave a message.
Because he's kind of like that.
And
Go ahead.
And it was an important message. I checked it, and it's so funny. Andrea was watching me when I was checking my message, and she looked at me. She said, "Wes, your face went pale." She said, "I don't know if there was a death in the family or what."
Really?
She said, I mean, I was, she got concerned, and she looked at me. She's like, "Wes, what?" And I just kind of looked at her. I was looked back and forth to each other. I said, "Guy Penrod." I said, "Who?" I said, "Guy Penrod." she was like, "What? I gotta call Dad." So she calls her dad. She says, "Well, I don't know. Guys called Wes, and he's left him a message, and we're not sure really what it's about yet." But
Which can I interject? One of the reasons he was so excited about this is these guys love this music.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know what their first, he and his wife now, been married 7 years?
Yeah, almost 8 years.
8 years. Their first date was to the Joy to the World video that we did at Christ Church in Nashville. And they had a date. They were going to Lipscomb together. Is that right?
Trevecca.
Trevecca, rather. Sorry.
Trevecca.
But you knew who we were because you liked the
Absolutely.
music.
I grew up
That's
on,
cool.
you're talking about Russ. I grew up, I remember 3, 4 years old. Listening to the 8-track in the car.
Yeah,
The
fade
Best of
in, fade
Imperials.
out, do the click.
And I have memories of about 5 years old, lying on the floor on my stomach. And I had a little portable 8-track player in our living
5
room.
years
And I
old.
would, get out of the closet, plug it up.
3 years
I had
old.
my Sesame Street, and then I had my Best of Imperials. And I would just put those back and forth, and I wore that stuff out, so to be singing, Eagle Song and Bread Upon the Water is pretty amazing, and to be able to sit on the stage with Russ, just like you said, it's just an honor, so yeah, we got the call, and it was just an
He
amazing.
came up to the house, remember?
Yeah, came up to the house that next week, and I don't like to use this term because I feel like people overuse it, but this really was a God thing from the very beginning. Because I was working at church and, really enjoyed my job. I loved what I did, working with singers, with the praise teams, and just a bunch of wonderful people. And I've been sensing in my heart, there's just something unsettling about this. I don't know what it means. I feel like God is, wanting us to move or something. I don't know what it is. So I prayed one morning. I said, God, would you please give me some direction? I need some clear direction in my life as to what I need to be doing. Because right now I feel like I'm just kind of treading water right now. And 2 hours later, I get the call from Karen. And she said, this is not out yet, but David's going to leave the group. And I was like, oh my gosh. She said, and, get me one of your CDs if you're interested. I said, yeah. I would, love to get a CD, and not really thinking anything would come of it. I thought, the possibility versus the probability of it all. I said, it's possible, but probably not probable.
And you were doing something you loved anyway.
Oh, absolutely. And then, so that was like on a Wednesday, and then to get a call from you that Saturday coming home from the wedding.
That quick?
Yeah,
God knows how to get a hold of you.
I got the call on Wednesday
your phone
morning.
number.
Wow.
We FedExed the CD off to Karen on Thursday. She got it to Suzanne on Friday, who then gave it to Bill that night. And then I got the call from you on Saturday around lunch. And then a few days later, we were at your house.
I remember getting a call from Guy. Hey, Marsh, this kid's coming up to my house. Get Lauren, come down here. That's right. Singing.
And when he showed up, did he sing every song?
When he
note
showed
for
up,
note?
we could have done a concert with Wes,
Right.
30 songs long. He knew everything. He knew, well, you knew more songs than I did.
He really did. He really did.
I was scared to death driving there. My heart was just racing. And, my wife and I pulled over at the entrance to Guy's Ranch, and we just pulled over and just prayed, and we just had a peace. And we walked in, and it was just immediately just, hey, come on in, welcome. And it was the least intimidating, possible scenario. it was just welcoming.
And then Guy calls me and says, you know what, the kid's pretty good. I think you need to hear him. And I appreciate you guys doing, because sometimes it can sound good on the record and all of that, but then you get to meet him and he knows nothing about your music. This kid knew all of our songs, knew all of the parts. We met in Nashville, and there was just that instant spirit, wasn't there?
Oh, there really was.
Chemistry.
Connection. You could tell, it was a God thing. It was beyond him, beyond me, beyond you. God said, I want
That's
this
for
to
sure.
happen, and it was evident.
And we still wanted to go slowly, and but as we kept looking at the other possibilities, we said, what, I think this is going to be the best fit. And here again, he was different than David, but he was strong. He was strong in his own way. And we've exploited those strengths, I think, on the new project, because I think it's always great to play to the person's strengths. We never tried to make you a Michael English. We never tried to make you a Mark Lowry. And we never tried to make you a David Phelps. And I am so proud of the result of the project. The interesting thing, after we knew pretty sure we were going to take him, we said, hey, come up next week. We want to sing in front of a crowd. We were having a convention in Anderson. And
Oh,
bring a
boy,
couple.
yeah.
Bring a
And you
couple,
do that every year. There's a homecoming in it for the school and the
you know, for
church.
the school.
Right.
And so I said it'd be a good chance to, you know, try you out in front of some people. By the way, bring some clothes too, because we may have to do another thing on Sunday. The other thing I did not tell him until about 3 or 4 days later was we were going to sing for the final Billy Graham crusade.
Hey, by the way, that thing you
Yeah,
need to bring
thanks.
clothes for,
Appreciate it, yeah.
there's going to be about 120,000 in attendance, and Billy Graham's the speaker.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't know about it, you know, like a week in advance, because that would
You know
freak
what?
out.
Paranoid.
This is like 3 days before. Before we had to go to New York, you were very cool. You said, okay, you know, Billy Graham, yeah, that would be great. And what did you do when you hung up?
I was freaking out. Of course, I called my wife. I was like, Bill wants me to sing at the last crusade. She was like, oh, okay. You know, just so surreal.
You know what? It was
so
similar when I
surreal.
came in the group or when you came in the group. He's been doing this so long. I mean, you've talked a lot about legends and you've honored those that have gone before you. And we have to say, I mean, you are a legend to us.
Absolutely.
And you've been doing this so long, that's kind of commonplace. You know, they've sung at Graham Crusades with Amy back when you did I Am a Promise. I remember seeing old footage of that. And so it's kind of, he's used to that, but we all freak out when
Shoot.
that happens. Shoot.
I was about to hyperventilate that day. I was just, but it was amazing. I told Andrea, I said, you know, if this doesn't work out, I mean, what an amazing privilege I've had to sing with these guys. And I mean, it's just been a dream of mine just to get a chance to sing with the vocal band. I'd be a part of it, just to sing.
You know what's so much fun for me is to be singing with 3 young guys who love our tradition and our heritage. Because the bottom line of what we are when it's all said and done is getting around the piano and singing "There's a River" and singing "I'm Satisfied." I mean, to me, this is the vocal band. Now, the vocal band has gone in a lot of different kinds of directions, and we continue to do that, and we will continue to do that. I think the "Give It Away" tune is a pretty aggressive rhythm track, but it is
It fits within what you do by playing to people's strengths.
Sure.
You know, you give him a lead that he can be strong on. You give him a lead, he can be strong. You give me a lead, I can be strong. You take things that you're strong on. It makes for a bit of a hodgepodge when it comes to where do we put these guys? You know, what hole can we put them in? But in the long run, I mean, we win.
Yeah. You know, I've heard horror stories in the past of groups, some good groups, that do very well on stage, and but off stage, they all go their separate ways. And I've been blessed in this group also. We've had good chemistry. It was great chemistry with Mark and David. Great chemistry with Michael and Jimmy and all of those. But if I'm just even measuring chemistry, and I'm getting so much mail saying, you 4 guys act like you're having a wonderful time singing.
We are.
And the answer to that is, we are having a wonderful time singing together.
Absolutely.
We're not putting on.
We're having a great time singing and a great time not singing. We have a great time hanging out.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's true.
Lifting each other up.
It's
Man, this
true.
is like our own little touring.
Fraternity.
Party.
No.
It is party, Bible study, lift up, accountability program.
Exercise, lose some fat together.
Man, it is great.
We were at St. Elmo's the other night with all of you and your spouses, and Gordon was there with his wife, Kimberly.
And Larry Wayne Morbitt.
And Larry Wayne
on the
Morbitt.
video.
And Gloria and I looked at each other and said, do you understand the good mental, spiritual health that's represented here at this table?
That's so good.
For which I am extremely grateful, because you know, art comes in strange packages, and I've dealt with it in all different kinds. These 3 characters are fun because you can be tough with them, you can get in their face about stuff, and they respond. I'm having a ball.
Yes, yes.
So are we.
Yes.
Let me ask you I've been around you a long time now as far as professionally in this group the oldest member, and I've watched you all these years, and you've got lots of irons in the fire. I mean, if these folks knew how much you do I mean, he runs us nuts, y'all. This man, I won't say how old he is because he might fire me, but at any rate, we are his much younger, and he runs us ragged. I mean, he goes nonstop. So you've got lots of irons in the fire. It appears to me through all these years that you really love what we do. As it fits in your life, where would you rank the joy level with the vocal band, with what you do with us when we go out on a weekend or on a video or in a concert setting versus all the other irons you have in the fire?
Oh, it would have to be, if it's not the top, very much the top. And I've worked very, very hard at the family thing. Obviously, the kids and the grandkids, are very, very important in my life. But Gloria knows when I get in the car and I put the CD in and say, "This is good." I said, "We've done some good things in the past." And you know what? I am very competitive.
Yes.
But I'm only competitive with the last thing that I have done.
You compete against yourself, I've noticed.
I compete against myself, and I just want to make the record better than the last one I did, and we've made some good records. Mm-hmm. And you know what? We will continue to do that because the group is just too good. And we have a saying, or I've coined this saying when we're recording, we will sell no rhyme till it's time.
Yes. That's exactly right. And he said that for years now. And he's backed it up. Well, I suspected that. I kind of led you. And I know, I'm sorry, but we all draw. This guy is a coach. And when he says he doesn't dole out, just flowery words all the time, because at that point they become meaningless. He's telling the truth. And sometimes, even to the degree that I've got to look into our lives and into your happiness as I read you and derive fulfillment. And I believed that, and I have all these years, and you confirmed it just now. And it's a joyful thing to sing with someone who enjoys it that much.
This weekend we were with Signature Sound. And they're young, and they're so energetic, and they're so much fun. And they can do stuff that we can't do, especially from a performing perspective.
Yeah, they're great.
And and I love Ernie because he's a young student too, and he's coming along doing some things great. And it was fun working with them because they just wore that crowd out because they are such good performers. But it was so much fun coming up after them, knowing that this is going to be just as good in a different kind of a way and just as much impact. And to look at the three of you guys with so much confidence and saying, these people are getting their money's worth tonight.
That's right.
Ernie's very good with what he's doing. We're very good with what we're doing. It's fun. But seriously, of all the groups I've ever sung with, this has to be my very, very favorite group. And I am...
Bill.
What?
You said that same thing about Mark and David. Russ and David. Jonathan and me. And
Steve Green told me the other day, back in the day, you told him the same thing. 81.
Of all the groups I've ever sung
that's funny. Bill Gaither. He's the most incredible voice I've ever sung with. Bar none.
I've sung with a lot of Bills and tops.
Head and shoulders.
Easy.
Bar
You've
none.
sung with Bill Fleet Blissums, haven't you?
Have.
And he's good.
He's good.
Of the two bosses I've had, he's the best.
Andrea's second.
They're both always right.